welcome to the Great Methodist Conference, an extra slice, bringing you all the details from behind the scenes of this year's conference. Later in the programme, we'll be catching up with our representatives and a few surprise celebrity guests coming to dish the dirt on this year's goings-on. But first, let's swing back the doors of the conference centre and remind ourselves what happened this week. In our signature dishes, we saw the inauguration of the President and Vice President, bringing their own particular style to the roles. Steve Wilde is the chair of the Cornwall district, and you may remember him, and his frog, Clarence the Puppet, from the TV series An Island Parish. Jill Barber, this year's Vice President, is currently director of the famous Anglesey Brook Heritage Centre. And there were several showstoppers for us to marvel at. The Sunday morning worship live streamed across the country. The debates on Nestlé, past cases, connectionality and accessibility. And of course the many fringe events which brought us news and ideas from around the connection. And here to kick us off are Rory and Sean. Sean, as the person in the pew, what is the thing that's grabbed your attentions at this conference?
You mean apart from the heat? It's always hot when I come to conference. The debate that has interested me the most has been the one on Nestlé and the possibility of disinvestment from Nestlé. And that was the most interesting debate because I think it was the one where there was the most opposition to the proposal. And the interesting thing about that was that everybody is on the same page in wanting Nestlé to change their practices in promoting baby milk in third world countries to those who do not need it. And it was more about the processes used. The proposal was that from the inside, as an investor with a reasonable amount of money, you have more clout, you have more influence. And the other argument is that on a matter of principle, you should not have your money in there and you can campaign from outside. It was a close vote and the proposal won by about 2/3 to 1/3, I would say. I voted against it, but most people felt that staying inside the company as an investor gave more power. So that was very interesting to me.
Rory, as a presbyter, what are you going to take back to you into the district and circuit and into your everyday ministry?
Two things really that struck me. There were conversations that continued over into the representative session. One was about the way that ministers, in a sense, are cared for themselves, but also held accountable for the way that they work. Part of it came out of thinking about past cases review, but for some time there's been a conversation in our church about supervision, about the fact that in almost every other helping profession that deals with serious emotional issues, people have ongoing supervision for the best practice of their work, but at the same time for their own health and well-being. And there are different views on that. I expected actually that the presbyters might be more resistant to that than they ended up being. I think there was a general admission that we need some kind of structure, and different language was used, rule of life, code of ethics or practice. We played with the words a little bit, but that sense of needing something that gives us integrity within the church towards ourselves and each other, and towards the world as it looks upon us and says, how do we partner with you in all kinds of things? That was a significant conversation.
Now my next guests have been waiting eagerly in the wings to come and share their experiences of conference this year. They are well-known faces to many of you, David Godfrey and Heather Shipman. Now, David, we've already heard from some of the other presbyters about conference goings-on, but you have a particular role as Presbyterial Synod Secretary and Assistant Chair of the District, with special responsibility for ordained colleagues. And Heather, you're David's counterpart in a way. You're the Assistant Chair with responsibility for most of the people in the district, the lay people in our churches. So David, Heather, what is the message you'll be taking back home from this year's conference?
I was particularly impressed by the past cases review and interested in that. I would commend it to everyone to read. It's available online to read. But there were 1,885 cases revealed over the last 65 years of abuse or neglect in various forms in the Methodist Church or attached to the Methodist Church. And that is disturbing reading. That is really difficult. And I think the thing I take away from conference and the past cases review, I remember vividly the standing votes. I mean, we only use standing votes for the most important and significant business, but the adoption of the 23 recommendations that came with that report was made by standing votes, and it was very emotional. That you could feel the tension in the room really as that vote was taken.
That's great, yeah. I think you're right, Dave. There was a huge amount of emotion, wasn't there?
There was.
Particularly around the item. I think the thing that I'm going to take away, though, from conference, apart from the fact that Rory is an excellent icer of cupcakes,
Absolutely.
is the debate on accessibility.
Yeah.
Accessibility to the conference, not being what you might initially think it is, not being about how do you get wheelchairs into a building, how do you cope with those who are partially sighted and those who have trouble hearing. It's about making things easy for those who want to join in debates, who want to take a full part in conference. It's about helping them to be well briefed before they even get there. I think that the statistics revealed that there were huge differences in age between those who came to conference and those who are part of the church and ought to be available to come to conference. There was a big gap in the under-17s, but you can expect that because that includes a lot of school children. But the under-40s didn't fare very well compared to those over 65 to 70 and onwards. Yeah. I think it was 32% of conference fitted into that age group. So I think you've got to bear in mind that there's a lot of work needs to be done on that we really do need to see if we can encourage more younger people to go to conference. And one of the ways of doing that is changing the whole format of conference, maybe enabling people to go to conference without having to take so much leave from work.
Heather, David, I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot more from you in the year ahead. Thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us today. Now we've got something special for you. We've been out and about talking to Gareth Powell, who is the new Secretary of Conference.
We're sat here on the last morning of conference at Southport. We're looking at the lovely lake, and with me is Gareth Powell, the Assistant Secretary of the Conference. Thank you, Gareth, for joining us this morning.
Not at all.
Taking time out of your hectic schedule. We've got some questions for you. We've been interviewing a few other people. What is the best thing about conference?
I think the best thing about the Methodist Conference is the perhaps most obvious thing, which is that it's where Methodists meet other Methodists. So it gives an articulation and an embodiment to connectionalism. You discover that people from the other ends of the country, and sometimes your very near neighbours, are part of this extraordinary body called the Methodist Church. And that's then how we begin to work together to discern the mind of God.
Yeah, on our table we've got Wolverhampton and Shrewsbury in front of us and Lincolnshire behind us. We won't tell you which ones are the naughtiest, but...
I can imagine.
Yes. And the next year, Gareth, what does it look like for you? How is it going to change for you?
Well, my role now as the Secretary of the Conference clearly is a very different sort of role to the current role of General Secretary and Secretary of the Conference. So I have to move to a new desk and move to a different part of the office and all of those sorts of exciting things.
Yes.
But then, of course, I have to begin to put into place some of the priorities that I think we ought to be considering in the course of the next year.
What are those priorities?
Well, I think there's a huge amount of work for us to do about our use of property and our use of money. As I said in the conference earlier in the week, I think it's a terrible scandal that we have locked away huge resources that we're not using for the mission of God. And what we need to do is make sure that we are using our finances and our buildings and also our people, thinking again about itinerancy and flexible patterns of ministry.
And when do you take up your new role as Secretary of Conference?
Well, like all ministers, on the 1st of September, but
right.
Because Martin Atkins is moving house and having a holiday, the legal delegation starts on the 9th of July, so a week's time.
Okay, a week, not long.
Not long.
And earlier in the conference, and there's video footage to prove it, you suggested you might do a song and dance, and time is running out, Gareth. Would you like to share your song and dance with the York and Hull district?
Well, I think I said it would be very, very later, and I think perhaps I found my Quaker inner being.
Oh, okay. And one last question for you. What are the 3 best things about Yorkshire?
The 3 best things about Yorkshire
Yes.
have to be Botham's Tea Room in Pickering and also in Whitby, of course.
Okay.
I think it just has to be a great and glorious day out in the North Yorkshire moors above Pickering, where the church house email server doesn't work, and the people of the York and Hull district.
Well, obviously. Thank you for taking the time this morning.
Not at all.
And we wish you well in your new role.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now, before we welcome our next guest, let's take a peek at some of the previously unseen footage from this year's conference.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way.
Of course, it isn't just fun and games and catching up on sleep. My next guests are representatives who've been working really hard, up every day for the start of business, and almost never taking a nap. Please welcome Chloe and Jackie. Jackie, Chloe, it's been your first time at conference. How's it been for you?
I think it's been very interesting. Certainly seeing all the people that are here, it was quite overwhelming at the weekend with so many guests as well, with all of the ordinands and their guests and just so many people joining together, and it did make you feel more part of the connection, I think.
Yeah.
It's also been fun to use our first time speaker cards, which is a great way of getting people who haven't been to conference before actually involved and letting them have a say, which is really good for us, I think.
Yeah.
Also, I found interesting the 3 Generate report. I was there in November 2014, and so it's amazing to create the report and then see it brought to conference, presented, and the resolutions voted on and spoken about, and people were generally very positive. So hopefully in the future we'll be discussing these issues of transgender, of contemporary views of sexuality and social media and things, which is very exciting for the church and young people.
Yes, and I agree with Chloe. The whole togetherness, being at Sunday worship, was absolutely amazing. And we felt like we were all together, the singing, the worship, and just the thankful to the love of God, or for the love of God. And it just filled me with such inspiration. And the speaker who spoke from the Anglican Church, I felt that there was a connection there too, a more definite connection between Methodists and Anglicans working together. So I found that very, very noticeable, and it's gone throughout the conference as well, which is, it takes me on to connectionalism. I feel more connected. I feel I know more about connection now, having the privilege of coming to this conference and learning a little bit more. My issue is, how do we get the message of connectionalism from the top through to district and then down to circuits and then to local churches, to make them feel that they are part of this big family.
Sadly, that's all we've got time for today. We'll be back next summer with a new series of the Great Methodist Conference and some new guests to bring you the details. Before we go, a huge thank you to our panellists. Thanks very much for watching, and goodbye.
Tea, scenery, people, friendships, food.
What are the 3 best things about conference?
Meeting people that you haven't seen for years and years and years. Some of the debates are really, really interesting. Just some of the great district colleagues.
What are the 3 best things about being Synod Secretary?
I like administration. I'm quite sad in that way. I like organising events. I love knowing everything that's going on. I think I'm a bit nosy, and the Synod Secretary role helps you to do that, and I like changing things. I think that's 3.
Was that 4?
Well, that's it. That's a privilege of being a Synod Secretary. Once you get used to one set of rules, it's good to change them.
Rory, what are the 3 best things about the England rugby team?
Well, there's they all have legs, and they lose to Ireland quite a lot, and there aren't that many South Africans in the team, unlike the cricket team. So I suppose that's a positive.
What are the 3 best things about being an assistant to Stephen?
Oh, he's the best boss in the world. Number 2, he's the best boss in the world. And number 3, he's the best boss in the world.